Am I the asshole for not making my wife cover up at home? So my brother, 28 male, came over with his wife yesterday and spent the night with my wife, 27 female, and myself. It was worth mentioning that I come from a Muslim family and my wife does not. Ooh. When my brother and his wife arrived, my wife was just getting home from work and she was wearing scrubs and her name badge. While I made polite conversation with my brother and my sister-in-law, my wife went to change clothes. It is also worth mentioning that my wife has tattoos, piercings, dyed hair, and stretched ears. Very much a stereotypical goth girl. When she was done, she came back into our living room in a tank top and a pair of shorts. My brother averted his eyes, but my sister-in-law couldn't stop looking at my wife. My wife has a tattoo from her thigh to her ankle on her left leg and a tattoo on her calf on her right leg. My wife finally noticed and asked my sister-in-law, like the tattoo? To which she simply blushed. My wife smiles and tells her, "You're fine, I'm used to the stares. You forget how many tattoos and piercings I have." My sister-in-law and brother both asked her how many. She has 7 piercings and almost 20 tattoos. The evening continues and during dinner, the conversation turns to my wife's tattoos. My sister-in-law asks if she's planning for more and my wife tells her yes and she is currently working on a full back piece. My brother rolls his eyes and continues to eat. Shortly after dinner, we're getting ready for bed and it's worth mentioning that my wife sleeps in a shirt and PJ pants. At no point is my wife nude or semi-nude. Before we go to bed, my brother comes into our bedroom and my wife is in the process of having me put tattoo lotion into the tattoo on her back. She has her shirt pulled up in the back but her arms are over her chest covering her breasts. My brother sees this and runs from the room. My wife is embarrassed, but I tell her not to worry about it as it's his fault for not knocking. Once I'm done, I go out to see what my brother needed. He tells me, "I shouldn't see your wife in a state of undress. You need to be a better husband and tell her to cover up." My wife did not need to see her body. I did not need to see her body. I tell him he should have knocked and it's not my fault or hers. He and his wife left early the next morning. I've been getting a lot of phone calls from him and my parents saying my wife is a loose woman and she needs to cover herself. I tell them she doesn't and to leave her alone. My parents and brother now want an apology from us. So am I the asshole? Okay. This was a kind of weird one for me because as a practicing Whistle, I understand both sides. Okay. I think you guys need to set boundaries, right? If it makes it shouldn't. If it makes your brother and his wife uncomfortable, I think it'd be nice. You don't have to. I would have that conversation because they're conservative and they're Muslims and stuff. I'd be like, "Hey, wife, I love you. There's nothing wrong with you. That's all that matters. That I care about you. But if it's okay when my family comes over, just to try to cover up, just to be respectful. There's nothing wrong with it, right? If you're okay with it, that's fine, right? But I can understand why." I feel like it would kind of bother me if I saw my brother and his wife like that. I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest because, right? And so, like, it just kind of goes against our practices. And to see your brother do that kind of stuff, it's like, it would bother you. But I think you're also, your brother made a really big deal. He shouldn't have barged into your room. It's not like you saw her butt ass naked. Like, he literally went into your bedroom. So, what was free game at that point? Like, it's not your fault. She sounds like a really nice person. I just don't know. Like, it's just, Am I wrong for bringing my fiance to my daughter's wedding? I, 52 male, have a daughter, B, 23 female, who got married last week to her wife, E, 24 female. They had been dating just under a year and decided to have the intimate wedding with me and about 20 other guests. B does not get along with my fiance, M, 29 female. B has no contact at all with M, and she refuses to come to our house and has been quite low contact with me for the last year or so because of an argument she had with M. As expected, B did not invite M to the wedding, but invited me as a guest. M said she did not mind if I went without her, which I thought was very gracious in the face of rudeness. However, we recently found out that M is a few weeks pregnant with our first child, and she has been anxious and having panic attacks all the way through her pregnancy. The morning of the wedding, I found M crying on the sofa and literally shaking. I asked what was wrong, and she said she felt very panicky and unsafe alone. I offered to stay home since she was so ill and I was worried about her, but she insisted I go to the wedding. I was too concerned to go without her, so I messaged E, informed her of the situation that M would be coming with me in case she had a medical emergency while I was away. E did not respond until we were already dressed up and halfway to the venue. E told us that M was not to set foot at the wedding, but at the point I had no other option and I wanted to be there for B. It did not go well. B did not speak to me the whole way through the wedding and kept giving ugly looks to M. At the reception, there obviously wasn't a place set for M and an extra chair had to be squeezed in. But I cut some food and fed her off my own plate, so I did not think it was a big deal. E came to me after dinner and said that B was not doing a father-daughter dance with me and gave me a list of complaints. She said she was disgusted by M's dress because it was red, and that M was wrong to introduce herself as my stepmother to B, and that M should not have mentioned her pregnancy at all. M only mentioned her pregnancy because she was offered a little cake, and cake makes her sick because of the pregnancy hormones. E told us to leave after dinner, and I agreed, so I did not upset B. I don't like, why is the daughter communicating through her wife to her dad? Like, if you want to say something, go talk to him yourself. I don't like that. It's so mature. However, when M stood up, her stomach cramped and she fell over. It only made a tiny scene, but I rushed her out and we sat in another room for 20 minutes until she felt better. E's mother came in at that point while I was just calming M down and made us get out. Since then, E and M's maternal family have been sending me angry messages about how rude we were, and E has told me that they want no contact for the foreseeable future. I really meant well and I just wanted to make everyone happy. But am I the asshole? Am I wrong for purposely giving alcohol to Mormons? I, 31 male, am a classically trained French chef. I have spent the last 11 years training and cooking in restaurants in France, and I am an American citizen. I met my wife, 26 female, 5 years ago when she was on vacation in France. We fell in love and she lived with me in France. When we decided we wanted to start a family, she expressed a desire to move back to her hometown of Salt Lake City, Utah, in the USA so we can be closer to her family. We had made the move as of last week. I was wondering where the Mormon came into the story. When we made the official move into our house, moving in some furniture from France and some bought furniture stateside, we had a bunch of neighbors come out and help us. What was expected to take 4 or 5 hours of moving in and arranging and putting away ended up taking 2 hours as suddenly 15 people came over to help, with snacks and drinks and advice about the home and neighborhood. I was so grateful and surprised at this kindness, so I offered to cook them all a grand meal 3 days later. Some turned the offer down because their kids or schedule, others because helping neighbors move is just the Mormon thing to do. I ended up cooking a 4-course French dinner for 3 other couples. They all absolutely loved my entree of 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗲𝗀𝗃 with the pan sauce, some even asking for seconds of it. I ended up making copies of the recipe for them as a final thank you since they loved it so much. When I gave them the recipes, they looked absolutely shocked. They didn't realize the pan sauce had red wine in it and they are not allowed to consume alcohol because they are Mormons. They ended up getting very angry at me, saying I'm trying to corrupt them with alcohol and that I should respect other people's beliefs and dietary restrictions. My wife is very upset and feels like I ruined our first chance at making friends in our new neighborhood. People I have talked to about this have been very split about it if I'm an asshole or not. Some say I should have studied up on Mormon dietary restrictions and modified my recipes to match, while others have said that as the people with the dietary restrictions, they should have mentioned them well before the preparation of the meal to make sure those restrictions are met, just like someone with an allergy would mention it. So which side are you on? Am I the asshole? Am I wrong for not letting my dad's wife name or see my baby? I'm 25 and pregnant. My dad got remarried when I was 17. Me and her never got along. She always pushed me and she wanted me to call her mom and then got mad when I didn't. She got mad that my dad was choosing me over her because we would go out together, just me and him. She went through my text messages, got mad at me for talking to my boyfriend about my depression and how I was feeling and not to her. She tried to take the stuff that I paid for away, my phone, car, etc. Tried to make me babysit her kids multiple times, even on my prom night. She tried to make me lose weight by fasting for a week straight. I'm a healthy weight, always was and still am, but that has always been monitored by a doctor due to health issues then and now. Me and my dad still talk, just not as much. He wanted to meet for brunch, so I said yes, unaware that he was bringing her. When they came in, we talked for a bit casually with my husband there too, until we got into the topic of my pregnancy. She asked me all kinds of questions until she gets to names. She told me that I was going to name the baby Amy, her daughter's name. I politely said no and said we already had a few names in mind. She started saying why she wasn't allowed to name her grandchild and she thought that she would get that right, and I told her it's our right. That was another issue. She kept saying that I was taking away her right as a grandparent and that I've always been such a bitch to her for no reason, and she knew that I never accepted her as a mother from the beginning, but I'm a bad parent if I'm going to project that onto my kid. However, this is when I stopped everything and told her she's not allowed around my kid ever. She kept pushing it, saying that she always knew I was a brat, but to be this bitter to someone who only helped her is absurd. I said that she can think that all she wants, but I'm going to be naming our child whatever we decide, and that name won't be it. Then she decided to try to hit close to home, saying that I was going to be a horrible mother. I'm already not taking care of myself. I look like shit. I'm already eating too much and probably killing the baby with how much I eat. And I just keep adding to how much of a self-centered person I am by taking away her bonding with her grandchild. Whoa, that hit me hard. But I was through. I told her she's not going to be seeing my child ever when she's born since she wanted to push her luck. Before I could say more, my husband grabbed our stuff and we left. I've never ever gotten so many messages from so many different people in my life. Multiple people are telling me that she was wrong, but I know how she can get, but I shouldn't deny her her grandbaby. Others are saying I'm an asshole and my father is on her side too. I honestly think I'm 100% in the right. It could be self-absorbed of me to say, but I do. But everyone else besides my husband thinks I'm a raging bitch. So, am I the asshole? I do understand people's obsession with naming other people's kids. If you want to name someone's kid, have your own. You can give an opinion like, hey, what do you think of this name? But you can't be pissed off when someone doesn't decide to pick your basic ass name like Amy. Sorry to all the Amy's out there. Don't take offense. But you're not her mom. You're no one to her. She's shown this insignificance you've played in her life. Why would you ever think you had a say in what her child would be named? I faked proof that I had a flat tire so that the lazy people in my group project would have to do the presentation themselves, therefore likely fail. I'm in a class where a group research project/presentation is a huge chunk of overall points. Everyone knows in group projects, you always have that one slacker who doesn't do anything that you would have to compensate for. I got stuck with possibly the worst 3 people to be in a project with in the class. I did the entire research, presentation, poster board, etc. among many other annoying things myself. I tried talking to them and telling them that they needed to put in their share of effort. Ignored. I'd send them tasks to do. Ignored. I tried to schedule meetings. They say they were coming and then leave me alone in the library. This happened from the get-go. It was abundantly clear that they expected everyone else to do the work, but everyone else turned out to just be me. Rule: we couldn't have things 100% memorized word for word, and we couldn't read off anything. We had to actually know the subject. I was fully prepared to do most of the talking and even wrote down a small script for them and told them to know what to say during their part at the very least. The night before, I told them we had to meet to at least go over the whole thing one time. Once again, none of them showed. At this point, I'm livid, and I decided that they can just do it themselves, which means they'd get up there, not know a damn thing to say other than the small info I gave them, and couldn't even bullshit anything because they did no research. Thing is, if we miss without an excuse, we fail the project. If you have an excuse, you have to have documentation. I commute and live an hour away, so I decide that I'll conveniently have a flat tire right before class. Went out and actually bought a tire so I could have the receipt to prove it. Emailed the professor, who said I can present by myself during his office hours. Turns out they completely bombed and not only probably failed the project, but since they're bad students, might even make them fail the class. The professor stated at the beginning that we were not allowed to contact him about people slacking in the group and said to work it out amongst ourselves. He said that we were adults and that he wouldn't even respond to emails about it. My boyfriend lied about my ring and now I can't trust him. For Christmas, my boyfriend of 3 years bought me a gorgeous ring, not an engagement ring. He told me in great detail about how he purchased the loose diamonds from a local jeweler, recommended to him by a friend that gets them in Amsterdam, and had it custom made for me in platinum. I genuinely loved the ring, but I thought the diamonds were suspiciously large and odd that it was stamped 925, which represents sterling silver, when he told me it was mounted in platinum. I did a little research and found out that it was a $1,200 moissanite ring in platinum over sterling, which I own a few pieces and he knows I love. He has done a lot of research on jewelry, so I'm certain he was not tricked. I am not a materialistic person at all, and he could have gotten me a ring from Walmart and I would have loved it because I attach sentimental value to gifts. He knows that. My problem is that if he would lie about something so trivial, what else would he lie to me about? I honestly can't even wear the ring because every time I look at it, I think about how he broke my trust and it makes me want to cry. Part of me feels like I shouldn't even bring it up since the ring still costs over $1,000, but I'm still just heartbroken since I always felt like he was a trustworthy person. Would you even bring it up? If so, how should I talk to him about this without sounding like a spoiled brat? Am I wrong for calling a guy's mom when I was trying to get him to leave me alone and stop guilting me? I had what I thought was a casual thing with this guy named Adam for a month or so. But last week, I said that I was going to move to a new state and he got pretty upset and said that he wanted to be with me. I said that I wasn't really trying to be with anyone. I don't want to spend my 20s like that. And he started getting really manipulative, even saying he couldn't live without me. That made me angry. I told him, how the fuck did you get to 24 years old without me? How the fuck are you here now then? Wait, I'm gonna try it again. That made me angry. I told him, how the fuck did you get to 24 years old without me? How the fuck are you here now then? That's how I picture her saying it, because that's how I would say it. He said he had been really struggling before he met me, and I was the first thing that made him feel hopeful. This honestly felt weird to me because we haven't been emotionally open with each other. I thought we were just having casual sex, and it felt uncomfortable that he was seeming to say his mental health depended on continuing to have sex with me. It felt coercive and gross, to be honest, like he was guilting me into continuing to sleep with him. So I called his mom, saying that I was worried about her son because I had a casual thing with him that I didn't think he was emotionally invested in and was about to leave for a new place. But he freaked out and said he couldn't live without me, and I felt worried that he would do something when I left. She seemed kind of weirded out that I was saying all of that. So to explain, I said that her son was telling me that if I left him, despite never being in a relationship with him, he couldn't go on, and I had to leave because I wasn't putting myself in that position of being with someone out of fear. So I needed her to check on him. She was like, all right, I'll check on him, but still kind of seemed weird on the phone. I moved to my new home, but afterwards I got this long, furious text from Adam because he found out I called his mom. But he is really angry I told her that he was implying he would do something if I left him because he had not said that. I replied to him saying, but that's literally what you said. And he told me he was just lashing out, being upset, and I didn't have to repeat it like it was serious. This manipulative piece of shit, see? Like, he was acting like that. This just shows that whole desperation act that these guys put on when you leave them. If you leave me, I'm gonna, it's all bullshit. I told him not to say stuff like that if it's not serious, and he got angry asking if I had never exaggerated something when I was upset. I didn't reply. I didn't want to get pulled in, honestly. So, am I the asshole for calling this guy's mom? Jewelers of Reddit. How often do people tearfully return engagement rings? I've been in this business for over 10 years and I've sold enough engagement rings and I really have no idea how many are out there at this point. Sooner or later, this is bound to happen. I've had it happen a few times, but here's the worst story. A couple comes in together, let's call them Mike and Stephanie. Mike is ready to spend about $20,000, which is a lot of money for a young couple, and I'm showing them rings in that range. But Stephanie keeps pushing for more and more and more. Finally, with enough begging, pleading, smiles, and thinly veiled sexual promises, she talks him into a 3-carat center diamond with an elaborate setting for around $30,000. Honestly, I don't feel great about having to witness this whole exchange, but at the end of the day, it's none of my business, so I complete the transaction. About 3 weeks later, Stephanie comes to my office alone. I assume she needs the ring resized or something, but instead she asked me if I can remove the center diamond and replace it with a 𝘃𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃 zirconia, a very cheap diamond substitute. I'm surprised, so I stammer, sure, but why? Are you traveling or something and don't want to risk the stone? She responds that it's nothing like that, she just prefers to have the 𝘃𝗶𝗃𝗀𝗃 zirconia in there for now. Obviously, every red flag in existence is waving in front of my eyes, and at this point I say, okay, and I take her ring. I tell her to come back in a day or two to pick up the ring with the 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗃𝗀𝗃 zirconia in it. But as soon as she's out of the door, I'm calling Mike. After all, he's the one who wrote me a $30,000 check, so he's my customer, not her. Mike picks up, and after a moment of small talk, I ask him if he knows what Stephanie is up to. No, is a shocked response. Mike called me back the next day and told me that apparently Stephanie was planning to call off the engagement and return the ring, but keep the 3-carat diamond. He was obviously very upset and asked me if I could give him a refund. I offered my sympathy and gave him back his money. Needless to say, he was very grateful that I had called him. About 2 years later, Mike came back with another woman who I liked much better. They're happily married with 2 kids now. Mike and I have become friends, and he's probably referred me to 10 plus other customers over the years. As for Stephanie, after she left my office that day, I never saw her again. Am I wrong for making a post about my daughter's favorite celebrity being rude to us? My daughter and I were recently on vacation. We spent the day in an area that's known to have a lot of rich and famous people, and towards the end of the day, we saw one of my daughter's favorite celebrities, we'll call her A, walking out of a store. My daughter ran to the store, but when she got near A, she was stopped by A's security. They said that A is there with her daughter for her daughter's birthday and want to focus on her daughter. My daughter was very upset because she's been a fan of A for a very long time, so she tried again for a picture but was turned away. My daughter was crushed, so later that night, I made a post talking about my experience with A, how she wouldn't let anyone go near her and her daughter, and the fact that her security was rude and not willing to be able to stop for a couple seconds for a picture. How she wouldn't let anyone go near her and her daughter, and the fact that her security was rude and her not being willing to stop for a couple of seconds for a picture. I understand it's her daughter's birthday, but a 1-minute interaction with a fan isn't going to ruin her day, and if it does, that girl needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around her. The post ended up getting a lot of attention, and a lot of people actually said my daughter and I were being entitled for expecting A to interrupt her daughter's birthday for everyone that wants a picture. My husband also saw the post and said he couldn't believe that I would bash her for trying to spend the day with her daughter. I'm not trying to bash her for spending the day with her daughter, but she wouldn't be where she is without her fans, so I think she at least owes it to them to take a picture. So am I the asshole for making the post about celebrity A? Am I wrong for eating my husband's entire birthday cake by myself? I'll preface this by saying that my husband's family and I don't get along. Like, at all. We're rarely ever on good terms, and for my mental health, I decided to put distance between us, especially after I was blamed for my most recent miscarriage that happened 3 months ago. My husband can still see them and visit them whenever he wants. For me, I don't attend any of their events, not even Thanksgiving nor Christmas. My husband's 30th birthday was 2 days ago. I planned to celebrate with him. I bought a cake and a gift, but he said that his family invited him to celebrate his birthday, and he really wanted to go because the birthday parties his family throw are like no others. We had an argument over this, but he told me to wait for him till he finished celebrating there with his family, then we could celebrate together at home and eat a cake. After he left, I felt so terrible. I called him, but he turned his phone off. I was so mad, I took the cake and brought it into the living room and started eating from it. I ate the whole thing, not saving him a single piece. Guess I was so angry and it made me hungry. He came home and saw what I did and blew up saying I did this to be spiteful and to punish him for not ditching his family on his birthday like I wanted him to. I reminded him that I paid for the cake, but he called me petty and nuts. He ranted and said that he didn't get to eat cake at his parents' house because a lot of kids were there and he didn't get enough cake, and what I did was 10 times worse. He's been upset with me ever since. So, am I wrong?